Hello and welcome to the latest webinar in collaboration with startups.co.uk. I'm Sam Jeffries from Nominet, and today I'm going to be covering how to get more customers through understanding your website visitors. So just to show you what we're going to cover today, we'll start by introducing Nominet and how we can help you. We'll then move into understanding why your customers and understanding them on a detailed level is the foundation from everything beyond this point. We then look at which tools you might want to focus on, covering both free and paid tools. Then we look at how you might want to prioritize your changes in terms of focusing on which ones are the most important. How do you identify that? Then we look at how do you actually roll out the changes? What if you're not technically minded? Then we look at how you can learn from the changes, build up your own library and adapt from these moving forward. We then have some great additional resources to show, and then finally we have a Q&A session. So starting off with who are Nominet. So Nominet manages over 12 million .uk domains. We're the UK domain registry, and we're the third largest one in the world. We connect over 3 million businesses with individuals and domains, and we're part of critical national infrastructure. Part of Nominet is the UK domain. Since our core business is domain names, it's in our interest to help businesses grow and succeed online, because the more they succeed, typically the more likely they are to stay in business for longer, and by staying in business they continue to renew their domain name. So it's through the UK domain name that we do webinars like this, where we help small businesses grow online. So to start with, laying the foundations. The first step to understanding your customers and growing your business online is to really getting a clear idea and strong clarity on who your customers actually are. So focus first on seeking to understand your customers on a real deep personal level. So who is your ideal customer? What are their shopping habits? What are their interests? Really try to put yourself in their shoes and understand who they are. And this is the foundation for everything beyond this point. Once you've done that, then we need to move on to having a clear website goal. So for example, try to identify what you're actually trying to achieve here. So for example, it might be growing leads. If it is, what is a lead? Is that a completed form? Is that a telephone call, for example? Or is that an actual meeting that's booked? Is it branding, or is it direct business? Are you selling direct sales throughout your business? And finally, how will you measure your KPIs? So you could use Excel, you could use Google Analytics, or something a bit more technical, challenging for some, but very useful if you can use it as a CRM software. So popular tools to use, of course, there's Google Analytics. So we'll be focusing primarily today on the use of this tool. This is the most widely used analytics platform in the world. It's also free, which is great for small businesses. HubSpot, I'll just touch on now. So this is a paid tool. So Google Analytics tells you the amount of numbers of people coming on your website and what they're doing, and HubSpot tells you who those people actually are. However, this is a paid piece of software. So for most businesses, particularly in the early stages, Google Analytics provides everything they need. Additionally, there's also server logs. So for the technically minded, when you have a website, it automatically gathers data in the background. And this is what's referred to as server logs. So you can see what people are doing on your site. And finally, there's internal documentation. So this could be Excel sheets of the list of phone calls you've had generated from your website. This is another analytical tool you can use, but today we'll primarily be focused on Google Analytics. So we'll go through an introduction shortly in Google Analytics. I'll just start by showing you what we're going to cover. So we'll start with a brief intro into Google Analytics, what it's used for and how it works. Then how to install it via plugin or through direct code, and finally further optimizations you may want to use. That's goals and internal IP addresses. So I'll now take you through onto Google Analytics, and I'll show you how to use that tool in a live demo. Here we go. So you should now be able to see my screen, which is an example of Google Analytics. This is a demo account, so there's no confidential information here, which is great. So just start by introducing it. So Google Analytics, as I said, is the most widely used analytical platform in the world. And businesses use it to log the traffic on their site, identify where people are coming from, what they're doing. And we're going to use it today to identify changes you may want to make on your website in order to increase your sales online. So I'll just take you down the left-hand side. We can see real-time audience acquisition behavior and conversions. So starting with audience, this gives you information on your audience of your website essentially. So this tells you what browsers they're using, whether they're using mobile or desktop more. Then acquisition, this tells you what channel people are coming from onto your site. So it splits it out between organic search, for example, and social media. Then we've got behavior, when people are coming onto your website, what they're actually doing. And finally, conversions. This allows you to review your goals through Google Analytics. So there's two real main optimizations everyone should look to do as soon as they install Google Analytics. And the first one is goals or conversions. So Google Analytics allows you to set up goals and you can assign a monetary value of this. So an example might be, say you have a form to book a meeting. Let's say you're an accountant, you're offering a free initial consultation. It takes you to a thank you page. So every time someone views that thank you page, that triggers a goal. And you can actually put a monetary value on that thank you page. And that means when you look at your pages, you can see which pages are worth more to your users. The second optimization is blocking out internal IP addresses. So this is really useful for small businesses that don't have a lot of reach on a website yet, and it stops their visits to their own website going into the stats on Google Analytics. So I'll show you some more enhanced reports now, but just quickly touch on how you might actually install Google Analytics. So there's two ways to install it. There is through a plugin. So for example, if you use WordPress, this would be the easiest method. And secondly, there's through adding the code yourself. For a bit more of the technically minded, but it's very quick and simple, and Google provides a lot of documentation on this. So I'll talk you through a few of my favorite reports and how we might use these reports to actually find useful information. So I'll start with top acquisition sources. So if we go to acquisition, all traffic and channels, you can see the split out here between the different channels. So we can see in this time range, organic search has delivered the most amount of traffic. However, if we look over to the right, we can see how many goals it's actually being completed against each traffic source. So in the instance of organic search, we can see the 75 goals were complete. In this instance, a goal means actually purchasing something. However, we can see the third most popular traffic source, referral, that's getting about a third of the traffic, is actually driving a lot more conversions. So if we look at the conversion rates for these, you can see it's a lot higher for referral. So this initial insight may want us, prove insight for us to look down our referral traffic source and see which of our referrals is actually driving those conversions. So it's information like this that we can use to scale up or down marketing. It can really grow our business. The second report I show is top exit pages. And this is done in behavior, site content, exit pages. And this lists the top pages that people actually leave our website. Now what's useful with this is if we apply a segment. So a segment is when you take our data and we dive into it a little bit more. So as an example, we have a segment called, where are we? Flirts. So these are people that have viewed over one page, but they've not purchased anything on our website. So if you click on this segment, and then we apply, this then only looks at this traffic source or this traffic data, this segment, when applying this filter. So we can see here, most people who viewed more than one page but didn't purchase left the site on the home page. That's usually to be expected. Home pages tend to have a high bounce rate. However, we can see 3 items down, store.html. There's a lot of people that are hitting our store but not converting, leaving. So again, another piece of useful information here might be to identify why are these people coming onto our store but not converting. Order completed, this is great. These people that have actually gone on and purchased something, sign in. So it's just really looking for golden nuggets in this process. I'll then move into another of my favorite reports, and that's mobile insights. So if we go to audience, we click on mobile overview. So this shows our split out of traffic. So you can see in this instance, desktop has got 63% of the traffic, mobile has got around 33%, and tablet has got 3%. However, if we look at our conversion rates over here, we can see the conversion rate from mobile is far less than that of desktop. So this suggests people who are on a mobile aren't buying as many products for whatever reason. So this could be another great insight we can use to increase our online sales. And finally, a final report we can look at is landing pages. Here we go. So this shows the first page that people began their journey on. So as might be expected, homepage is the top. We've then got, it looks like a shop filter followed by store. And then we can see, based on this data, how many people then went and actually completed a goal. So if we sort this by goal completions, we can see most of the people started off on the homepage, followed by store, as to be expected. However, if we look at the conversion rates, again, we note that people that started on the store converted about twice as much as the people that started on the homepage. So another insight here might be, how can we get people to visit our store quicker when they land on the homepage? This might be adding more products on the homepage or making that navigation more prominent. So I'll now take you back into the PowerPoint presentation. So Google Analytics provides us with pure numbers, and we've seen through the insights, looking at the different reports there, different places people are going on, different points they might be converting higher than others. However, we don't know exactly why they're doing this at this point. So by looking at this sort of information, we can start to discover this. So in this slide, we talk about why are our website visitors acting this way. So why might we need the user research? We've discovered this. What options might we have to find out this research? So Hotjar would be a great tool. So Hotjar is a pop-up, which we'll cover more in more detail further on. You've then got Prioritising, similar to Hotjar, then Pop-Up Maker, which is a free WordPress plugin, and then finally live chat analysis. So if you have a live chat tool on your website, by looking at the logs and seeing what people are asking, you can start to find out a bit more information. And often you can also use a live chat tool to actually ask your customers for insights on certain pages. So as we'll cover shortly within Hotjar, there are certain key points you may want to ask these questions. We'll now show a quick introduction of Hotjar on the next slide. So on this instance, this is a pop-up that shows, typically in the bottom right, starts off by asking, did you find the information you needed on this page, yes or no? Then takes the user down two different journeys. If they said yes, we thank them and ask them how we could actually further refine and improve the page. If they say no, we ask what was missing on that page. And then once that's been submitted, we then ask for an email address. If you did make the pop-up GDPR compliant, you could then use this to actually increase your email subscriber base as well. But usually we ask for email address just to find out further information on why they encountered this issue, and maybe even follow up if we do solve the implication at a future point. So how might we find useful information through the use of pop-ups? So previously at Google Analytics, we spoke about how you might add a goal, and for a goal, you can assign a monetary value to it. So for example, say you're an accountant, and every time you have 10 people sign up for free initial consultation, let's say 5 of those people then become a customer. So you've got a 50% conversion rate. Let's say each customer is worth to your business, let's say £100 for the sake of simplicity. You can then assign a value to that lead, to that page. And by adding this information into Google Analytics, we can then sort by our pages, and we can see which page is typically worth the most. And this allows us to hyper-focus in on the pages we should amend, because they offer us the greatest chance for improving our business KPIs. So typically this is pricing pages, or store pages, or in-depth product pages. Secondly, I really like exit surveys, because they're what we call just-in-time information. It's a moment of truth. So these are pop-ups that trigger, and you can do this through Hotjar or through a lot of other free alternatives. They trigger when you move the mouse up to close the tab or to open another tab. The pop-up triggers. So that usually indicates a person's about to leave the page. And by popping up at this point, we can ask them for further information. For example, what is this page missing? Did you complete your journey today? If not, what could we include on this page to help you complete your journey? Finally, for the people that did actually purchase, we can actually ask them what nearly stopped you from buying from us. So it could be, for example, I thought you charged too much delivery. Now, often in business, we have a lot of gut feelings, and typically we apply these gut feelings to our website. But as is often the case, when we actually ask our customers for information, often the struggles they're having are very different to the ones we think they're having. Alternatively, you can use screen recording software to capture further insights. So through Hotjar, for example, you can record screens of users when they've used your site but they haven't converted. So this could be a great segment to focus in on and spot, for example, where they might be getting lost on your website. This will be another example of qualitative information. So just taking you onto the next slide now. So how might you prioritize your changes? So you've gone through Google Analytics, you've spotted your high value pages, you've spotted your high exit pages, and then you've gone asking questions to your customers, you've done your user research, you've had pop-ups, you've got a whole load of ideas. However, some of these ideas will be worth more to your business than others. So in this example, I've given a kind of a crude measurement of what I would do. You list all your changes in Excel by item, and then you add 3 different measures: ease to implement. So this is easy to implement on your website typically. So if it's a headline, it's very easy. You can log into WordPress and make a change. If it's something like adding a 30-day trial, it's going to be a lot harder to potentially add that. You might need some HTML, CSS work. Then the likelihood to double your business. So on this example, I've given that a factor of 2. So by amending a headline, actually, we know from research, that's a real powerful metric in marketing. And amending your headline can literally double your conversion rate. And this has been shown in many studies. Obviously, it's just a test, so we have to test to find this, if that's actually the case. And finally, how operationally easy is it to implement? So let's say you're a big corporate business. If you want to add in a 30-day free trial, actually operationally, that's going to be quite a hard mountain to scale. So in this instance, we've given that a factor of 2. And then you combine the scores of all of them and then filter by the top scoring. So in this instance, amend the headline is top, followed by changing the pricing button color, followed by adding a free trial button. So moving on to the next slide, we'll cover how might you actually roll out these changes. So you've typically got 3 choices. If you're technically minded, or you've got a great content management solution like WordPress that allows you to easily edit your site, you can do it yourself, of course, and a lot of people will do this, and this will be appropriate. However, many people might have a more complicated structure, or there might be changes they want to make that they can't do themselves. So this might be a great instance where a freelancer could come in useful. So sites like People Per Hour, for example, or even freelancer.com, or even through your own personal network can be a great way to find individuals that can help you achieve your business goals. Or finally, a direct hire. So I appreciate this may not be appropriate for a small business, but if these changes are something you're going to move forward in doing a lot of, a direct hire can come in very useful. So once you've rolled out the changes, what do you do then? Well, actually, I say take a step back from that and actually test the changes first. Because as we mentioned earlier, often you'll find the changes that you think are going to make a big difference fail to actually move the needle. So by using split testing software, we can test which changes work ahead of time and then only roll out those changes which actually make a difference to our business metrics. So there's 3 different choices for this. There's Google Analytics. They have something called experiments. This allows us to add 2 URLs into Google Analytics. And it tells us which URL creates the most conversions. Then you've got Optimize, which is another free piece of kit from Google, great piece of kit, allows you to do simple split testing. And finally, you've got Enterprise A/B split testing software. This does tend to be quite expensive. So for many people, their split testing can be done through Google Analytics or Optimize. So just to confirm what split testing actually is, this basically takes your traffic and it splits the traffic off down 2 different routes. So you can serve half your traffic up with your existing page and half your traffic up with your new page. Then you can add your goals into your split testing software, and it tells you when it's statistically significant. So it tells you the point when it's had enough people that have gone down both routes that have converted on one more than the other, that it knows that that's the version which achieves much more conversions than the others. So it's then you just need to monitor the impact of these changes. and then you scale up or scale down accordingly. So this may prove certain changes make a big difference, it may prove certain changes don't make a big difference, but it's kind of like learning from these changes as you go and then scaling them accordingly. So on the next slide, we then provide a 6-point action plan to close. So I'm quite a big fan of the lean startup approach. So this is the idea that you build, measure and learn in a very tight feedback model. So this is the approach I've taken to the 6-point action plan. So start off with the foundations, understand your customers, who are they, what are they trying to achieve, then decide which tools to measure with. So Google Analytics might be an instance. Thirdly, identify opportunities. So through looking through your analytics and through surveying your customers, identify changes you want to make. Prioritize them, roll them out, and then learn and repeat. And through going through the 6 steps as quick as possible and through many iterations, you can start to really find opportunities that can make a big difference to your business. So that's pretty much it. We've got a couple more slides. So we've got additional resources and then we'll move into the Q&A section. So additional resources, the UK Domain blog is our blog. It's a great blog that provides information to businesses all the way from getting online to growing their business through social media, SEO, PPC. We also have hashtag #AskUKDomain. If you use this hashtag on Twitter, you can ask us any business question related to growing your business and we will provide a video answer. Startups.co.uk, who we've done this webinar in collaboration with, have a very useful website across many different spectrums of starting up and running a business. And finally, conversion rate experts, if you're interested in particular on split testing software and increasing your conversion rates, conversion rate experts have a great blog, articles and downloads on their site. So we'll just move into the Q&A now. There is a question and answer box. Feel free to ask your questions in there. I'll dive in, see if we've got anything already. At what point should I change from using free tools to paid? So great question. So as we mentioned earlier, Google Analytics for the most part will solve people's needs along with Google Optimize as well. So really, if you have a really advanced website where you're taking people down a really complex journey and you want to test changes, that's where like paid split testing software will come in really handy. But if you're just making simple changes to your website, Google Optimize, Google Analytics would be very useful. Again, the same for HubSpot and Google Analytics. HubSpot tends to be more and more focused on enterprise customers now. So, the cost can be quite prohibitive for a lot of people. And Google Analytics will tell you who's coming on your site, where they're coming from. HubSpot really is more focused around who these people actually are. So for example, if you have a sales team, HubSpot can be very useful because it can sync in with your CRM like Salesforce, and you can link in which prospects, for example, you're dealing with in your sales pipeline. What pages are they returning to my website? Are they looking at the demo I sent them, for example? See if they've got any more questions. How much time should I spend on analysing my website's performance as a small business? Another great question. It really depends kind of, are you really aggressively trying to grow your website? If your website is your primary sales funnel, I would try and spend as much time as feasible, really. So, I mean, the great thing about Google Analytics is you can find this data very quickly, very easily. Even in 20 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, you can find out a lot of information, and then you might want to prioritize changes and roll changes out once a month or even once a quarter. Obviously, the more is better, but understand as a startup, you have a lot of different hats to wear, a lot of different focus points. But even as little as even once a week for half an hour would be great work. We've got some other questions. Can I see the 6-point action slide again? Of course. So that's from Jeffrey. So the first one was understanding your customers. Just take you through it again. So this is the foundation. So before we can really come up with changes, we need to understand who our ideal customer is. So, even down to age and interests, because the copy and the design of your site should really adjust accordingly. So understand that first. And in that first point also includes your website's goal. So it might be increase leads, for example. You might have a form, make that more prominent. Second step, decide which tools to measure with. This is where we went through Google Analytics or HubSpot or server logs. Identify opportunities. So that's where we went through some of my favorite reports, just to go through them again: top acquisition sources, top exit pages, and mobile insights. Often you can pull out useful information there. Then we went through how you can prioritize your changes. So I had an example of an Excel sheet, and I did a scoring system based on how easy they were to implement and how likely they were to double the business. Then we went through rolling out the changes, and then how we might learn and repeat from these. See if we've got any more. So we got one from Elsa. She asked, the flirt segment you went through on Google Analytics, is that part of the standard Google Analytics or created by you? So this was created by a kind of an analytical pioneer called Avinash. He was an ex-Google member. He came up with this idea, and if you Google for it, you can download this segment and apply it, or you can create it yourself. But basically what the segment does is it looks for users who visited more than one page but who didn't convert. So it's quite easy to set up, or just have a look. If you Google Avinash flirt Google Analytics segment, you'll come up with his report that you can import into Google Analytics. And that's a useful question to ask, actually, because he's come up with a lot of useful reports and segments. He's made them all free, publicly available, and you can add them all into Google Analytics. And I think that is it for all the questions for now. Unless you've got anything else, please do ask it now. Or feel free to use the hashtag AskUKDomain for any other questions you come up with. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar today. I've just had one more question just come through, just caught me there, from Andy. Are there any specific key metrics it's essential to track? So just before we switch off, Andy, yeah, great question to ask. I would say really focusing on top acquisition sources. So these are the top marketing channels that are bringing people to your website. So we saw an example earlier. Organic search was bringing most people to the website, but in fact it was referral as a traffic source. So referral means people that have been referred by other websites. So if I link to your website, I'd be referring a user. Referrals were driving a lot more conversions. So I would say definitely focus on acquisition sources. I would look at mobile insights. What percentage of traffic is coming from mobile? Look at those conversion rates. Typically, if we sit at a desk and we look at our own website, we look at it on desktop, but actually most of our traffic might be looking at it on a mobile. So it gives us a false sense of security if we see our websites working, when in fact, through looking at mobile insights, we might prove that our conversion rates are a lot lower, so our mobile traffic is having a much harder time converting on our website. So I'd say definitely focus on those two. A lot of people like to look at vanity metrics, for example, how many people am I getting on my website? But actually that doesn't provide us with much useful information. It's only when we dive down by segmenting our data and looking through detailed reports that we start to find the really useful nuggets that we can make changes to our site based upon. I'll just check for any more. I think that's it. Thank you very much. As I said, any more questions, ask us on hashtag AskUKDomain on Twitter. This webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon.